Welcome back, YouTubers, to some more Sherlock Holmes. Let's head over to Jameson's Buying and Selling. Need to talk to Nigel over here. This game has a lot of talking, a lot more than I would have liked. The proprietor is a full-bodied man dressed in commercial tweed. His face is dominated by penetrating brown eyes. His mouth, now turned slightly inward, looks like it might, in a relaxed state, meet the world with a permanent smirk. I have good reason to believe that you have recently come into illegal possession of an oval-shaped ivory pendant on a heavy gold chain. You may have reason to believe so, but do you have evidence? I do not believe that I would have much difficulty in convincing the police that you are an accessory after the fact to a murder of a young woman whose pendant you received. Marta, now let's not be hasty. I recall the pendant. I didn't know it was stolen. I can't guarantee the legitimacy of every person that walks in here. I'm a man of business. I rely on the good faith. Save it, Inspector. Save it for Inspector Lestrade, Mr. Jameson. Where is the pendant? I sold it almost right after I got a hold of it, to a private inquiring agent named Moorhead. He knows me, knows I deal with a certain class of goods, if you take my meaning. He keeps an office in the city. You could find him there, I suppose. That's all I know of him. Has anyone else approached you about the pendant? I remind you to be frank with me. Now that you mention it, yes. Shortly after I sold the pendant to Moorhead, one of my regular clients came looking for the pendant. Though he used different means than you, he persuaded me to tell him to whom I had sold it. What is this so-called client's name? Hunt. Robert Hunt. Mike? Mike Hunt? Mike Hunt? What do you know about him? As little as possible, if you take my meaning. He is what's known as the business as a rough trade. Interesting. Let's head to Garden Detective Agency. Moorhead. I need Moorhead. We must find Moorhead. My name is Sherlock Holmes, and this is my colleague, Dr. Watson. We wish to speak with one of the principals, preferably Mr. Moorhead.
I'm Violet Granger, confidential assistant to the gentleman. Mr. Moorhead, there's a Mr. Sherlock Holmes here to see you. Mr. Moorhead, hello? He must have stepped out while I was on my tea break. Yes, here's a note. Back in an hour or two. You can leave your card if you like.
Might we speak with Mr. Gardner?
No, Mr. Gordon hasn't been in today, which is most aggravating if you'd like to know.
Why are you perturbed with Mr. Gardner, if I may ask?
Because I'm bursting with curiosity, that's why. The client, who must remain nameless, you understand, summoned him to a midnight rendezvous at the zoo in Regent's Park. I saw the telegram. Some nonsense about bringing her jewelry, but I know what she was about, and so did Mr. Gardner. He left her with a smile on his face. Mr. Moorhead and I had quite a laugh about it. Mr. Gardner's a bachelor, you know. He has... Was the client Miss Anne Carraway? However did you know that?
'Cause I'm smart, bitch. I'm Sherlock Holmes, ho! The London Zoological Gardens.
more constables. Constable Duggan.
Good morning, Constable. I've never known the Inspector Gregson's men to draw zoo duty.
Ah, it's you, Mr. Holmes. There's been a spot of trouble here, but we've had it well in hand. Limiting access to the zoo until we complete our investigation.
What has happened?
Well, confidential like a man has been killed under mysterious circumstances, if you take my meaning.
Indeed I do. Perhaps Inspector Gregson could use some assistance.
I'm sure he could, Mr. Holmes, though he's not likely to admit it. He's in a foul mood today, sir. Watch your step, won't you? You can find him blustering beyond the elephant cage.
Mr. Holmes, Dr. Watson, go right in. A small shiny object reflects the morning sunlight. It appears to be partially covered with mud. It is not possible from this distance to identify the object, or to even speculate about its actual size.
There's a gigantic grizzly bear guarding the shit, too. Whoa, another murder. Ah, Mr. Holmes, come to put in tuppence. Have you very public-spirited, I'm sure. You might as well have a look at this thing. I know you. I know you look at the dead body and figure it out in 2 seconds.
The body of a middle-aged man lives in a characteristic pose of death. The head is turned to the side and one knee is slightly drawn up. His black hair is matted by dried blood where his skull has been severely crushed. His clothes are very dirty, though they are decent quality. The left trouser leg is ripped and frayed, exposing some deep lacerations and punctures. Oddly, there's very little blood surrounding any of the victim's wounds. There are several wounds slashed across the lapels of his jacket. A good deal of tearing is evident. These tears appear to be a pattern reminiscent of large claw marks, as he was thrown in a fucking bear cage. Where was he killed, Inspector, and why have you moved the body?
Ah, Mr. Holmes, you always proceed immediately to the clue of the matter. I just told you the lads of this body had been moved, but how did you know?
Given his head wound, there ought to be more blood on the ground where he fell.
What? Ah, yes, exactly my thought. He was certainly not done here, then.
Correct. It was somewhat damp and dirty, and he was moved by a small person.
Oh, yeah? Next you'll be telling me what he had for his last tea.
Given time, perhaps. I can tell you now that he was an inquiry agent by profession, a dark-eyed, left-handed bachelor, an ex-policeman, and a very foolish fellow. He was murdered by a hired killer.
Mr. Holmes, you exhaust my goodwill and try my patience when you talk like that. You surely do. Do I look like an idiot? You don't know all these things. You can't. You're just trying to show me up. Perhaps you had better move along. Remember, the interference in police matters is a criminal offense.
You lately said that you never received interesting cases, Gregson. I'm sure even you could see that such a remark was at best premature. Too much pride is not a good thing, Inspector. Good day. What can I do for you, gentlemen? Mr. Holliston, I'm Sherlock Holmes, and this is my colleague, Dr. Watson. Can you tell us, please, where was the body found? I almost tripped over him when I came to work this morning. Talk about starting the day on the wrong foot. When were the animal cages cleaned out? About 6 p.m. while the animals were being fed. Why do you ask?
Could anyone on your staff have seen the murdered man?
I told the inspector everyone except Simon Kingsley leaves the premises at 7 p.m. Simon doesn't have much to do with people. He has an unusual rapport with all the animals. Felix the lion is a special friend. Passing strange if you ask me, but there it is, to each his own. Since Simon didn't sound the alarm, I assume he saw nothing. May we have Mr. Kingsley's address? There are no 2 points I would like to clear up for me. Of course, he lives alone in the flat at St. John's Wood. The address is 241 Grove End Road, just opposite the Lords. I should say the Inspector Gregson seemed quite uninterested in Simon. Somehow, that doesn't surprise me. Is there anything else you could tell us concerning the regrettable incident, Mr. Hollins? No, I'm afraid not. Exhausted my meager store for information. Guess we are heading over to Simon Kingsley's flat, then. Good day, Inspector Fagg. Hello, gentlemen. What may I do for you? We'd like to ask you a few questions regarding a murder that happened at the zoo last night while you were on duty. Please, come in. Make yourself comfortable. A well-worn pair of Mark and Spencer Brogans, size 9. The edge of the soles and part of the uppers are encrusted with mud. Several coarse reddish-brown hairs are stuck in the mud. Of course. A photograph of Felix, the famous lion of Regent's Park Zoological Gardens. The photograph has been professionally tinted to replicate the beast's natural coloring. The artist possessed legs less than modest skills. I'm fucking crazy from all this reading. Kill me now! You care for several species of animals, Mr. Kingsley. Surely you have a favorite. That's no secret that I have a special relation with Felix. That's no crime. And you'd try to protect him if you thought he was in trouble. I would try. What if I were to tell you I've seen enough to assure me that Felix was not responsible for Gardner's death? He wasn't. I mean, of course he wasn't. Let us be frank, Mr. Kingsley. You moved Gardner's body from Felix's cage, did you not? What happened? I assure you I bear no ill will, nor Felix either. For that matter, we can keep your story just between us. Please remember that another person's safety may depend on your veracity. I thought I'd been very clever. Now I know better. Here's what happened, I swear. I heard Felix making a commotion about 10 o'clock, and I went to calm him. I found him gnawing a dead man's leg. This Gardner fellow had fallen or jumped into the cage, and Felix had killed him. Lions are very territorial, you know. I dragged the corpse out of the pit and put him outside the MD's office. I just couldn't carry him any further. Then I cleaned Felix's pit the best as I could in the dark. I didn't want Felix to be put down for something that really wasn't his fault. Gardner was either drunk or he committed suicide. Actually, he was neither, Mr. Kingsley. He was, as I said, murdered, and his murderer wanted to make it look as if Felix was the perpetrator. How insidious! People really are disgusting. Simon, I need to examine something in Felix's cage. Would it be possible for you to occupy Felix so that I may go down into the pit? Of course, if you think it's important. It may be a matter of a young woman's life or death. I'll get dressed and meet you at Felix's cage. Fine. We'll return there immediately. Thank you. Come on, Watson, hurry up. What you eat for breakfast? You slow turtle. braided watch attached to a fine gold chain. The latch is encrusted with mud and there's a small dent in the bottom. Otherwise, it's in good condition. An opening which reveals an inscription. A piece of paper is attached to the inside of the lid, just below the inscription. You remove the piece of paper for closer examination. Piece of paper with the numbers 11, 17, 86 neatly printed in bold masculine hand. This music sucks dick. Let's head over to Moorhead and Gardner Detective Agency. A framed photo taken from the Aberdeen Illustrated Gazette. The picture shows a stern-faced provincial constable and carries the captain, Officer Gardner, foils burglary attempt. The man is in middle years and of otherwise undistinguished appearance. It is imperative that we see Mr. Moorhead, Miss Granger.
I'm sorry you just missed him, Mr. Holmes. I was very upset when he left.
Do you know where he's gone?
Now a boy delivered a message with Mr. Moorhead read privately. And he asked me to shut the office door on my way out, which usually means he's opening a safe. A minute later, he left without saying a word.
You have the key for the office door?
No, Mr. Moorhead and Mr. Gardner have the only keys as far as I know.
Perhaps we could get it from Gardner's body at the zoo. Inspector Gregson will still be there. Watson, I'm sorry to inform you like this, Miss Granger. Mr. Gardner was found dead at the zoo. In any case, Watson, there were no personal effects found with the body.
Oh, that's dreadful. Who could have done such a thing?
I don't know, but I'm getting in that fucking office. Boom shakalaka! Here it is, Watson. A sinister message indeed. Listen, Watson, be on platform number 2 at the St. Pancras station in 10 minutes if you want to see your partner or your client again. Bring the pendant. Come alone, and I'll be watching you. There's not a moment to lose, Watson. St. Pancras will be deserted this time of day.
It's in a very safe place, where you'll never find it. Never.
What? Will you risk the lives of 2 others as well as your own for a cheap pendant? You're a bigger fool than I thought.
You're right, I am a fool. To have come here alone and unarmed. You are a fiend, Hunt. My guess is that Frederick and Miss Carraway have already met their maker.
You can join them! Stop right there, Hunt! You'll be nipped by Sherlock Holmes! Ah, the famous Scotland Yard jacking office. Pretend copper. You're less than a boil on my backside to my way of thinking.
We shall see, Mr. Hunt. We shall see. Where, incidentally, is Miss Carraway?
Never heard of her.
If she is alive and you tell us where she can be found, the law may go easier on you.
Pull the other one, Holmes. The law's got nothing on me.
Dr. Watson and I witnessed your execution of ex-Constable Moorhead.
Nonsense. That lunatic attacked me. And in the struggle, he fell under the train.
Scotland Yard, I'm sure, will have a different interpretation of the events.
Let 'em. It's your word against mine.
Besides, I'll make it my personal business to connect you with the disappearance and murders of Anna Caraway and Frederick Gardner.
Don't make promises you can't keep, you silly sod. Gardner got eaten by lions is what I heard. You'll never place me at the scene, as the yard boys say. Now, since you're not a real copper, and a bit of a dim bulb in the bargain, I'll learn you one more thing. You'll never find a Caraway woman alive, and without her, you have no evidence. So, Mr. So-called detective, I might become better acquainted with the Old Bailey, but you'll tie nothing on me that will hold fast. Dartmoor Prison will never see my face again.
Quite right. You'll hang at Newgate, if I know anything of British justice.
As for you, Holmes, I'll make you pay for sticking your nose in my affairs. I will have my revenge. That's a promise.
So many have said so, yet here I stand. You're going to the Bow Street Police Court, Mr. Hunt. I hope you're not too particular about your accommodations. Where do you live, by the way?
Stuff it.
Stuff my fucking cock in your head. You must find Miss Caraway, Watson, and hope that she is still alive. Of course, Holmes, but how to best proceed? Perhaps a visit to Bow Street, chat with Mr. Hunt. Remember, too, that Moorhead's secretary spoke of a safe in his office. If he ever had the pendant in possession, it's likely that's where we'll find it now. Brilliant as usual, Holmes. Shall we go? Let's resume our investigation, Watson. I'm prepared to follow you anyway, Holmes boy. That's right, keep your mouth shut. Got us a piece of paper. The writing on the paper reads only IOU 12 4 2nd HM. Aha! And I believe we have the combination. Inside the safe is a leather case. The case contains a solid ivory oval, approximately 3 inches in the long dimension, attached to a heavy gold chain. The clasp of the chain is broken. A bird of some sort has been etched into the ivory. Close inspection reveals a sliding panel on the sides. When moved, they cause the pendant to open. Inside is a piece of high-quality stationery folded several times. The letter reads, Dear Anna, as my death approaches, I wish to atone in a small way for my grievous wrong that has been done to you. I played a part in that wrong, and I beg your forgiveness. If you should ever want to legally establish your true relation as Paul Brumwell's mother, this testament and good solicitor would help. You will risk incurring the wrath of Lord Brumwell should the truth be made known. Tread carefully, my dear, and forgive me. I, Dr. Theodore Smithson, longtime friend and physician to the Brumwell family, delivered a male child of 24, May 18th, 1878, at Brumwell Manor. The mother of the child, later named Paul, was Anna Caraway, a house servant. The father of the child was Lord Brumwell himself. I participated in the conspiracy to make London society and the world think that Paul was in fact the legitimate child of the childless Lady Brumwell. Anna was retained as a wet nurse, and later as nanny to the boy. When it became clear that the child had become attached to her, she was cruelly dismissed with the warning that if she ever told the truth of the matter, she would be destroyed by the Brumwell power. My hope is that I have finally done the right thing. I regret that it has taken my impending death to force me to action. This confession is witnessed by my solicitor, Percival Hincliffe, signed Dr. Theodore Smithson. The game's afoot, Watson. It's fucking afoot. Time to go to Lord Brumwell's mansion and kick his ass. Freight deliveries are to use the rear entrance. You wish to see Lord Brumwell. Was his lordship expecting you? He is not. His lordship accepted no solicitations. Are you selling something? No, we found some property which belongs to his family and we wish to return it. He might give it to me. I'll see that he gets it. I'm sure you would, but I'd rather give it to him personally. Believe me, sir, his lordship is not in the habit of rewarding people for any reason whatsoever. You might save yourself any trouble by giving what you have to me. I'm afraid I must insist upon seeing Lord Brumwell. Very well, give me your card and I'll see if he's available. What a stubborn asshole. Servants are often reflections of the people they serve, Watson. Indeed. I'm sure that our own Miss Hudson will be pleased to hear that she may soon be matching wits with Scotland Yard and making unreasonable demands for tea and biscuits at 2 o'clock in the morning. Perhaps my point was overly general. I'm afraid his lordship isn't available. Lady Brumwell will see you. Please wait here. Her ladyship will summon you. Summon me? Summon me? Sherlock effing Holmes, biatch. Enter. Mr. Holmes, what may I do for you? We have a letter that I believe Lord Brumwell will be very interested in seeing. You are becoming quite tiresome, Mr. Holmes. If you give me the letter, I will see Lord Brumwell gets it in due course. This letter is very important, and I insist that I see Lord Brumwell in person. The letter was written by the late Dr. Smithson. Dr. Smithson? Oh my. Perhaps you should see Lord Brumwell after all. He is beyond the double-doubles in his study. Yeah, you goddamn right. Move out my way, you old crone. Come on, Watson. You slow fatty. Give me a moment to collect my thoughts, gentlemen. Then you shall have my full attention. I won't ask you to sit, gentlemen. This, I suspect, will not be a cordial interview. We don't have to pretend to be friends, do we? Quite right, Lord Brumwell. The direct approach is generally most satisfactory. You are doubtless aware of the purpose of our visit. You're making a nuisance of yourself, disturbing me in this way. Don't know why you fellows came along. Do not waste my time with trivial provocation, sir. A young woman's life is at stake. A woman who I have reason to believe was once very dear to you. Who? Anna Carraway? No. I barely knew she... Resistance is useless, Lord Bromwell. I have Dr. Smithson's letter. It contains sufficient testimony for any court to convict you of a heinous crime. Heinous crime. Smithson was an idiot. I could prove that he was delirious. He was in love. He was insane. I knew nothing about him. Cease and desist, sir. 3 innocent people are dead. Robert Hunt is in custody and will surely hang. Likewise, George Blackwood. And you, sir, are as responsible for these 5 deaths as if you had personally put a bullet in our brains. Will you see Anne Carraway, the mother of your child, dead as well? Smithson tried to ruin my reputation. And that bungler Blackwood and Hunt the moron, surrounded by incompetents and hopeless lunatics. I should have done it to myself. I was a fool. I've destroyed the only thing I've ever loved. Do you know where Hunt is taken, Anna? No. You tried his flat. We don't know where he lives, dipshit. His place is on Lambeth Road, number 252. Will you come with us to Scotland Yard, Lord Blumwell? There! Give me dignity of turning myself in, if you would, Mr. Holmes. I'm an old fart, fuck. And we'll see you next time on the next video, the final video for Sherlock Holmes in the case of the serrated scalpel. See you then. These fucking tongue tooth twisters are fucking me up.